Okay, December 19th, and our today's session on the video conference is on project skills. A lot of this was targeted for support staff training, part of it, but also there was a lot of information that counselors need to be aware of onto this. And a lot of what we're dealing with today is the internal processing that we are dealing with, project skills, and also the employment skills program that we work with. Before I turn it over to our speakers, I do have some information I want to go through first on the project skills and some background information. Project skills has been in place since 1995. The program was intended to provide our consumers, and typically back then youth with disabilities who were in the school system, some real work and career exposure. Almost 400 students right now each year with disabilities are accessing the Project Skills program. So we have a number of individuals accessing the program, and where they will earn a paycheck of minimum wage up to 250 hours. The Employment Skills program was later added and for individuals with mental illness, and that's now expanded to other disabilities with employment who have typically larger employment gaps. Last year I noticed that we did about 45 participants in the Employment Skills program also. All the Project Skills students and participants of the Employment Skills program are on the Bureau Personnel payroll system. So part of this training today we'll be going over, and I should say a good share of this, we'll be going over the requirements and paperwork that we need to make sure that is done correctly for the payroll system. And it's not that it's a state process. This is the payroll forms is something that every employee, every employer needs to make sure they have done. Certain forms, that's federal requirements, or certain forms that they may have to get them on their payroll system. Before I turn this over to Priscilla and Nicole from the Bureau Personnel, I also would like to give some additional information on how the Project Skills program works, because it does tie into some of the authorizations and the processing that we do. Project Skills is considered a cooperative arrangement with the local school districts. Vocational rehabilitation pays for the wages, the FICA, and the workers' compensation. The VR funds are 100% federal. The schools then will match our federal funds by providing the services of job placement, job coaching, or monitoring the students at the work site. And this is done where they will either do it directly themselves or they will purchase these services from providers. For every $10 that Voc Rehab funds and our federal funds, the schools are required to match our federal funds by $3 in providing services. The payments and funds matched are tracked through the VR FACES authorizations and also through the Bureau Personnel payroll system. And we also have the schools send us quarterly match reports that are submitted to the transition project. And this is something that the counselors and the staff may not see out there, but it's forms that the schools need to do each quarter. And that shows us the number of hours and their rate of hours for providing those services, because they're required to provide that $3 a match for every $10 we do. And there's just some schools that are not sending in their reports or not counting all their dollars. So, and then each quarter, we will match this information, and then probably contact the schools if there's issues onto there. I also periodically send out reports to the VR offices identifying the agencies and schools that we contract with. And this is a document that I sent out, and it has probably about 40 different agencies, and many of them are schools. And I think just for information, I'll just bring this up really quick so you can see this. The document you see starts out with the Aberdeen Central High School, the Agar Blunt, and then so some of these are directly with schools, while other ones are with cooperatives. There are, I don't know how many school districts are out there. There's probably 150 or something like that, and we're just not going to do 150 contracts. because some schools may only have 1 or 2 students. So many of them connect with cooperatives. And for example, you see Black Hills Special Services and has made arrangement, and they serve 12 or so different school districts. And then most of these are public entities with schools or with cooperatives, but you do see once in a while some private entities such as Employment Connections, and they have a little different contract when they start serving the schools, that they have to pass on that responsibility to the school districts onto there for the match. So it's important that we watch that these are the schools that are approved for project skills, and if they're not on there, we need to do a contract. And our contracts are done on 2-year cycles, and all the contracts will be ending the end of September 2012. And so at that point in time, we will be issuing new contracts with all the schools that are meeting their match requirements and have been serving students in project skills. And if they weren't serving any students in project skills, I probably won't issue a contract with them unless they contact me about it. So if you ever have a contact by the school about doing it, just give me an email and let me know where we're at out there, if they want to do project skills or not. So I also want to mention that there's very good information on the project skills, can be found on our DRS website, and also the Transition Projects website, which is tslp.org. There is a very good video of the Project Skills program out there, that if there is people who have questions about what the program is and how it works, I just recommend send them to the link onto there. So most that I was talking about with the project skills, with the employment skills program, there is no match, and so we do pay that a little bit different. And I do have some notes that once Priscilla and Nicole are done, that we'll have them talk about. I'll talk about that portion of it, how the process and authorization. So and I do want to address that, and you're probably aware that we do have a project skills audit every year, and that is where the workers' comp is coming and checking with me as far as how much we have paid to each student and the importance of the workers' comp code onto there. As I mentioned, all the students on project skills, about 400, and the adults on the ESP, about another 45, are on the state payroll system. Their checks are being cut just like yours and mine, I believe, onto there. And also that they're on the timekeeping system that gets approved by district offices. So at this point in time, I'd like to introduce Priscilla Olson and Nicole Adams from the Bureau of Personnel, who work with our staff on getting the processes set up in place for these individuals to be on the state payroll, all the way for them to getting their checks. So Priscilla and Nicole, and I'll turn the camera over to you.
Can you see me?
I guess we can see you there, okay.
Good. Hello, everyone. Wait, just say anything.
It's on.
Okay. Okay. Bernie, did you send the email out, and they may have copied them or printed them out for now?
Those documents were sent out.
Okay.
And I didn't make that many for here.
Oh, we have extras of paper.
And I tell you what, what I may do is I may just bring up the form on the screen when we get to a specific form.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Okay.
And the non-permanent one, the one I sent out with them, is the one that we had the coding stuff on already.
That sounds great.
So
that might be the perfect one to bring up for that. That'll be the first one to talk about.
Okay.
So today we're basically, Nicole and I are going to talk about what BOP can do to basically make your life easier when it comes to the forms that are needed for somebody to be paid from the state of South Dakota, and then answer any questions that you would have with regards to these forms, and then if there's something that we can do to make this process smoother, that's what we're looking to do. Okay? So we know what we need, but we also want to make sure that we find out what your needs are. Okay, so to begin with, we're going to look at the non-permanent payroll form. It's the one that actually tells us here in BOP exactly what you need from us. It's been pre-filled out for your purposes, but we do need to have the rest of the document filled out. And from what I understand, this document, the only question that we have is if there's any way that when it comes to the VR counselor's signature, it's at the bottom right, that there can be maybe print it and write it, because we have to put the person that you are putting on payroll in specific codes, and our codes are kind of attached to the counselors.
They get grouped by the district, and I can understand that where if you can't read whose signature it is.
And there's some signatures we can't read and some that we can.
And it wouldn't even hurt to put Keith Rouse -Peer behind it or something like that to know your office. Yeah,
Yep.
to help know which office and district, because when it's in Peer, then it goes in that district for the supervisor to sign off on the timekeeping. So.
Yep, and that's kind of would help us here. That way you won't have to print out your signature and sign it. Just maybe that would be the best way to do that. Okay.
And this form is the same for the employment skills program versus project skills. So
yes, this doesn't change.
Same coding onto there.
This form is not always completed by. Sometimes it varies who handles this, isn't it? Sometimes it's the school that goes through the paperwork.
Yeah, but we still have to.
You still sign it,
yeah.
Right.
But it's the provider that sometimes comes to you with this stuff, and you're going through it and signing it. True.
Okay.
Yeah. Depends on how ruralness of the situation it may be
So
onto there.
it really depends on the situation.
Yeah. But we do ask for those schools or agencies to help start putting this information together for us and stuff.
Yep.
And I know Kathy doesn't do the packets for everyone right now, stuffing them, but she does send out the forms. And the offices can put together as many as they want, because some forms change by calendar year.
Right.
And then we're unstuffing them and putting different ones in.
Right.
So she has just been sending those out.
Yeah.
And then, I recommend getting these from Kathy that are already pre-printed in the red with the black lettering for the coding in there and stuff. So.
Yep.
Tell me
And
what
of course, there is a backside to this form that, you guys have been great in looking at that and then completing that.
Oh, okay. I may not have scanned that one.
And that's okay, because
Yeah.
that one's been fine. So, okay. There's extras in the front table for those who are here. If you want them. The next one, we'll look at the W-4. And I'm not mentioning these because there's been things that are wrong with them. I just want to make sure that we don't skip a form that would need to be into BOP. Does that make sense? Okay.
My understanding with the W-4 that it does need to be completed with their name, like their Social Security card.
Yes. Correct. Yes.
So, because I write Bernie all the time, but my card is Bernard, and I have to, so it's, if people are using a shortened version of their name,
Right.
it does need to match what their Social Security card.
Same as the payroll form, it has to be what's on
Oh,
their
the
social
payroll
security.
form does also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because it's all tied to payroll, and of course that also tells you what you're going to get for Social Security later in life.
Okay.
So it all has to kind of come from the same name, so same Social Security number all the way through your whole life. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one other thing that I can mention on the W-4 is that some people will put an exemption, like one or two, but then they'll also write exempt. And it can't be both, it has to be one or the other.
Okay.
So just make note of that it has to be one or the other, it can't be both, because otherwise I'll be contacting you to find out which one you want. So.
Okay. Next form.
Yep, we'll go to the next form. Okay, this is I-9. When the information was emailed out to you, you're going to find a lot of information, about 4 pages worth, before you get to the actual form that you would be using. So if you can scroll down through those, Bernie.
Oh, sure.
That's the information of how the form is filled out.
It's on the 3rd page, I think, with that 4th
Yeah.
page where the form's at.
Yep. So then you would have the form, and you can have the person fill the top portion out, making sure, like we mentioned before, it's the same as their Social Security card, so that the name matches up. And then when you get down to the columns, typically your form should have a backside to it or a second sheet of paper that talks about what would go in A, what would go in B, and what would go in C. You know, so if you have
That is
somebody,
right here. There.
Yep,
So if they have a passport, that takes care of
everything.
everything.
You still have to have a social security card, no matter what, for the state of South Dakota.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you on that. But typically, I think we're getting into doing B's and C
Yes,
columns
that's typically what.
where it's driver's license, and social security card, and stuff like that. And okay.
Now, on the I-9, it's the counselor that signs the certification, right?
Yes.
Who's ever verifying their
They have to see it,
documents. Yeah.
and then they'll send us a copy, but they have to see the original in order to sign. It's about 2/3 of the way down.
So it's the counselor that.
Not always.
You
It
might
could be, I have school staff do it.
Okay, whoever's verifying it,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, whoever's verifying it has to sign there, right?
So they would fill out that
But
part
the-
in entirety if
but
it's
they-
not.
And they still send the copies.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, just a copy of the social security card. They don't send a copy of the passport or whatever if they have.
Okay.
Would you have in file what the two items were to identify, or not?
We've seen both. We've seen where they've sent in the stuff, that, you know, like a driver's license if it's an older
Yeah.
person, and a social security card. We've seen a school record
Okay.
sent in.
Or school ID
Yeah,
with
we
picture.
sent that in. So they've been sending it.
Yeah. My recommendation is what they use to fill out the 9, have the record in the file, and the reason is they're going to need this for when they get the job, and if they can't find it again, at least we'd have a copy of it in the file. Then
Do you
we
want
could
it
write-
in our file or do you want it in their file?
We have to have it.
Yeah.
Do you keep it up there? Okay, one time we were keeping it in our file.
Right.
Like even if we're using the school record, we have to send you the school record to you. You want that in your file?
There's both documents that are on the I-9 we have to keep for their personnel file.
Yeah.
I don't know what copy that is.
Yeah.
As far as keeping it in our file, it's optional. But I don't know what kind of situation you run into where those kids are losing it when they do get a job, but they're going to have to again show this when they do start a job on a job site.
Yep.
That it'd be easier pulling it out of our file than trying to get it back. That would be my only thought onto there. So
So
now I do want to mention that and I can't remember if it was Beth put together one time a 3-ring binder or book for each office, and I couldn't find mine. Maybe I didn't keep one or whatever, but it was just on the I-9. Some examples when those changes happen in the I-9. So I think each office has one of those, or the people who were I consider the project skills contacts, that they were had a small binder or
Okay.
handout of the
kind of shown in picture examples, is what you're saying?
yeah, I think it was when there's some changes in the program. So
Okay, and if she put that together, I know that nothing's changed since she
Yeah.
probably put that together. And
There
it's
hasn't been.
like, okay. For the documents themselves, let's take the Social Security card for example. You would find that it actually says that it's Social Security Administration on that, and that would be a good identifier of a person's ability to work in the United States, because that's what I-9 is.
I have seen cases where, because if they don't have a Social Security card, they lost it, can't find it, they go down to the local Social Security office, they will get a printout that they can use in place.
Yes. There's a lot of things that
Yeah.
because it's the same. Now, if they have a school record or a report card, there's been times that it's come in with no identifiers on it. It's just a student. And
Person profile report, is
Yeah.
what the title was.
Okay.
yeah, and we would need the school to have something on that to show it's from the school. So and that would fall in that column B.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about the type of records that you would turn in, making sure that it has some identifier of what it is or what
Okay.
part it falls into.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any questions from the field out there?
You guys have any questions so far on the I-9 or the other forms that we may have?
I guess this may sound like a stupid one, but starting January 1st for the W-4, we have to switch forms and start using the 2012 form?
Only for new people.
Hopefully,
For new people?
hopefully it'll be out at that point in time. but there's nothing that says, oh, you have to have it, you know, because I've seen where it's other years have been used, so you're not gonna get some sort of penalty, that's not gonna happen.
Okay, so if
If
we
you
have-
turn in the other ones, or if you're, hopefully you don't have 1,000 printed for 2011. Maybe if you know, if you have like 30, 40 printed, go use them up.
Okay.
You know, and then you'll get the new one.
Okay.
You know, so
Yeah, there's,
Okay, we have a question in Brookings.
yes.
There's a question in Brookings on any of these forms, like the I-9, W-4. If there's been a mistake made, can it be whited out or crossed out and changed, or do we have to get a whole new form?
You should be fine. Just initial by it. You know, if now when does it change though? Is it at the time that you're writing it out?
Probably.
Okay.
if
So-
the
So if-
student's
if-
there,
if
you know, you can do
somebody's-
another one, but I think you just, go ahead, Jerry.
Suppose that somebody has a W-4 like Nicole had mentioned, and they put two things on there. If we just call them and say, "What do you want here? Exempt or two exemptions?" Can we just white one out?
So what have you been doing?
That's what I've done.
We white one out here.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions so far? Did you have anything else you wanted to add on this document?
Just to make sure that the middle part of the bottom of the middle of the page, that the employee signs that part, 'cause
Let me
sometimes
bring that
that's
back up
missed.
here. You're talking about,
Right after,
After
section 1 is completed.
I thought it changed deals here. Okay. Right there, that updating or
No,
certi-
actually, that's where the person who sees the documents that will
Oh, okay.
fulfill would fill out that section where it says certification I, and then that's where they would fill that out, right
Okay.
above section 3. If you go up, there's a section 1 that the project skills person would be completing,
Okay,
and they might need a little help to complete it, but there's a signature line in there right above the word preparer and or translator certification. There's a signature line there.
okay,
And the other thing, the section 3, if someone were to be termed as project skills and then rehired, you don't necessarily have to refill out the form again. This bottom portion can just be recertified. That it's still accurate and whatnot. And as long as those documents are no longer expired, aren't expired, then you can use those same documents as proof of that information and just put your information down and re-sign it.
okay.
So,
And that's if they went off the payroll system and they're coming back on because we contacted bureau personnel and said this person's done, we don't expect them to be back anymore, but
Yep.
for some reason they do come back on later on.
Yep.
Okay,
No, I mean, if you're looking at a big time gap, which you probably won't, but, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, like summer or something like that.
okay.
Okay. And then we also have restrictions on public employment.
Now, we have not been doing this one,
No,
and
you wouldn't be because you didn't have the employment skills part as a part of this.
Yeah.
You had people under the age of 18.
yeah,
For the most part, that were involved in project skills. But now that you have individuals that are over the age of 18, this is the document that they will need to make sure that they complete and send back with us.
okay.
Okay?
And what if we have someone we started before 18 and they turn 18 during the process? We don't need to go back on this, do we?
Typically, anybody who's 18 or older should have this document in their file at some point in time.
Okay.
Okay?
So it's probably something when we start a new school year and we know the person's turned 18 that we may want to go back and do that form on that. Most of ours are below the 18, but we do have some that probably are going over 18.
Yep.
So, okay.
So, and then that's going to be just sent to us too, just like
Okay.
the file.
that did have a deal on the bottom. It deals a lot with the registration for the service.
Yes.
And I did see in the bottom, if you're not sure if you have registered, they can go to that website and they can check onto there.
Yep. And that's for the individuals that are supposed to register.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're expected to register, then you know, check in the appropriate line, and then if you hadn't yet, go register.
Okay.
So
Most of these forms that we're talking about are in the project skills folder, I believe, but not maybe.
Kathy's not putting them in the folder. She
Yeah,
said
but
yeah.
but
They
does
will
she?
be-
does
They
she-
will be put in the folder by each office.
Okay, but not that one probably.
this one would be reasonably new because
Yeah.
we just
Okay.
got the employment skills portion of it put in place, like you talked earlier.
Okay.
Direct deposit, is that, okay.
The direct deposit form looks really, really busy. So, I mean, when you go through to complete this, it kind of takes on, you kind of get what they're asking for. Essentially, what we want to make sure of is a couple of things, is to ensure that the person is being paid in a timely manner, as well as make sure that we have the appropriate notifications when it comes to them getting paid. Okay, so what do I mean by that? When you go through and you look at the employee direct deposit payroll card, there's things to fill out. The financial institution, where you're putting the money, including something from the financial institution to tell us that, okay, this is where my money's going. And that would be typically a voided check, but you know, a lot of people don't have checking accounts, so it may be something from that institution, their letterhead on it, with your transaction number, as well as, what's the other number? Routing and bank number, yep. So, after that is all done and you have all that information, then we need some way to get back to you and say, okay, you know what, it's payday time, here's what you're going to be seeing into your account. And that's what that email is. And that's kind of where we were trying to make sure that we would get emails for individuals if they have them. And if they don't have them, finding a way for which they could get this information if they want it. Some individuals in Project Skills want to know, okay, what is going to happen to my account? They'll see about 4 days before the money goes in there. Some don't care. They just show up and whatever's in their account, they, you know, they're students. And then, so therefore some will provide us with emails, some individuals will not. Well, we want to make sure that in our system that we're able to follow through and complete that process. So one of the things that we thought might work is if we sent it to somebody that administers this program, essentially you guys, and make sure that if the person doesn't have an email on file, you're getting the information about what's going into their account, so that if they come and ask for it, they're coming to your site, they're coming to you, and you can provide that information. Because essentially it is confidential information, but you wouldn't have to do anything unless they wanted it. So this would be kind of a process thing for your discussion.
So they would need to put their email address in, but then the counselor, with their permission, if it's okay with them, they could also put their email address in there.
If they don't have an email address.
Yeah, we would want to do both. We would want to have just the
Yeah.
one for the project skills person.
Okay.
And I'm not sure we've been asking all the time for the people's email address because, you know, I would just leave it blank or what. But you know, we do want individuals to, where checks are getting away from being in paper, if all possible, onto there. So, you know, some way that they get notification. So.
Could you use like a parent's bank account?
We've done that. Yep.
Which the important thing is to remember to have that voided check, or even if it's a savings account. A lot of people check the savings account
Yeah.
and don't provide any of the information to verify,
Yeah.
which we have to have on file. Even though it gets pre-noted from the bank, they send, like, we put the information in, they send a file to the bank trying to verify if the information is accurate. It's called pre-note, and it'll fail if it's not accurate. But we still need that proof of information just for their file, just for.
It gives us permission to do the direct deposit.
Okay. Yeah, and if that checking account works best, just add that void check and write void on it. So.
And this can change. I mean, like, so you're going through the process, and halfway through the year they change stuff. You know, letting that project skills person know that this is something that you can come in and make a change to. You know, maybe they are no good at handling that savings account because they keep screwing up. You know, and their parents are not happy with them anymore, and maybe they go get the check card, or not the check card, but the card that's here, the payroll card.
Okay.
So there's a couple of options there. Just kind of a side note, you know, we've had several discussions with Bernie, Nikki, and I about there are just going to be those people who don't have a method for which to use direct deposit, the payroll card, because where they live doesn't support these type of technologies. Okay, we know that. And those are situations that would be on the backside. So in other words, you need to tell us, you know, because we're moving toward less paper, and we're hoping that it is effective. But we know that you can tell us when it's just not going to work for that particular project skills person because of they don't have the infrastructure in place in the community that they live in. Okay? So let us know if that's the case, and we'll go from there. Is there any questions on the direct deposit payroll card?
Payroll card or
This
direct
is
deposit?
Rapid City.
Yes.
Hello. Did you say that we can use a parent's checking account
We have
instead
been.
of the student?
Well, Nikki and I talked about that a little bit, and we know that part of project skills is that learning part. And that is something that we've been asked about the parents' checking account. And I think it's something more internal than us saying, no, we won't pay you unless it's your own. We still, in BOP, have an obligation to pay the person that's working. And I think that question kind of falls back on you and what your decisions would be with regards to that learning portion of it. You know, is it the right thing to do to have them have a same checking or savings account as their parents, and then is that what you want to do? So we kind of leave that up to you. We just want to make sure they get paid.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
Another option would be working with the school as part of the educational plan that they do work on those IL skills of a checking account and savings account for the student, and those checks can start going into there. Okay, thanks, Margie.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was just going to say, I know a lot of people have been, since we're starting to do this, signing up for the payroll card, and as far as I know, it seems to be working okay. Have anybody had any issues with that at all?
Payroll card, are we talking?
I know a lot of people have signed up for it, and
Well, you know, I was going to comment. I know that there's in the businesses, because my wife deals with some payroll, and she said that they have employees that I'm trying to get to the front of this or this page of it that is issued to a payroll card because the person may not have a checking account or savings account, whatever, choose a payroll card. So the question I have is, do they get overdrawn by this? Can they, or or not, or is it just like those cards? There's $50 in there, and that's it.
right.
Okay.
You can't take out more money than what you have available to you.
Okay.
And it kind of acts like a check card, if you've used those. You know, so if you go to an ATM to get money out, you're probably going to have some sort of fee.
It is a $2 fee. It says on here for some of the ATMs. So.
Yeah.
Some of them charge up to $4 or $5.
And and that's just finding out, okay, if you have to do that, is this the type of situation where you should probably have checking, if you can, because it's a different type of expense.
Also says it can't be used to pay at the pump because of the potential overdrawn. situation and stuff like that. So, you know, for some people, it may be a pretty good option up to there. So,
And I don't know, I mean, if we're having schools assist with the process of getting people on, you know, this program, and they're helping them decide, you know, between this and something else, I mean, it might be good to educate them into the differences, you know. Yeah, if you have a checking account, you could overdraw, and these are the fees, but if you have the payroll card and you want to go fill gas, you need to know how much is in your account at all times.
Bernie, this is Carmen from Huron. Did you say they can overdraw or they cannot?
According to what I was reading on here, you cannot overdraw onto that.
So if you probably try to make a transaction, it's more than the amount that you have on the card, it'll probably get denied.
Yep. So if you go to the gas station and you buy gas and you put too much in there, you'll probably get denied.
Yeah, well, it says it can't be used on a pay at the pump situation
Yep.
because of that. And I've seen some like the Verizon use some of these refund in the cards. And the thing is, what you'd have to know is if you go to Walmart and you have $90 worth of stuff and you've got $50 on your card, you got to know exactly what's on your card and tell them there's $50 on this card, and they'll take that off. And but usually you can call the phone number, or go online to find out what you got available. So.
Bernie, this is Gary in Watertown.
Yep.
Do they get a new card every month, or do they retain the same card?
Same card. You just you get one card, and it keeps going on to that account.
So if they lose their card, a new one would be issued then?
For $5.95.
Okay.
Let us know. Have you had that situation where they've lost their card, or?
No. I don't know if we have anybody in Watertown using this.
Okay. Okay.
So if they lost their card and someone found it, what's the potential of someone using that and taking the money out of their account? Is it attached to a security code?
As far as I know, they have a PIN number.
Okay.
They have a PIN number to access their information, but I think a person could just go through Deli or whatever and just charge like a whatever card. Probably that potential.
Oh, because if you don't have the part that comes up and says you have a PIN number,
Yeah.
do you enter that?
So there's a good potential that someone could find their card and spend down their account.
Or there's potential they could lose their wallet and lose the cash too.
That's true, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's just like anything. You lose your
If they
checks.
But if they call right away, can we say, I just
Yeah.
lost my card this afternoon, can you
Yeah.
stop
They
payment
can
on
stop it.
Yep. So it'd be
We would
just.
call you?
Yep, we call BOP.
Okay.
Or call the number that's with your statement for the actual card.
And that would be
folder
quicker.
itself,
So do they get a monthly statement then from us? Okay.
indicating where the purchases, how much they've purchased at what place and
Okay.
whatnot, what their balance is.
Okay.
Which they pull that address from our system from the payroll form.
Okay.
That's the address that, we get, that we send the card to when they sign up for it, and that's where the statements where Bureau of Finance and Management puts that address down for their card, for their statements to go to.
Okay.
So it's important that that address be accurate.
This is kind of new out there. Have we started using this at all? I was curious if there's any feedback from our staff out there on.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything. I know a lot of people have been signing up for it and haven't had any issues.
Okay.
Have you guys heard anything from the students out there in the field? No.
I think the thing is for all of us to understand the days of having the checking account where you're reconciling and you're doing the bank statement or the every record, you're saying what your available balance is. 99.9% of kids aren't doing that anymore. They just they go online, they see what they've got left for money, and that's how they don't reconcile their accounts or balance or handle it any other way. And it just or they go to the ATM or the bank machine to find out their balances and getting post stamps at the same time or whatever. So how the bank transactions are handled. Even now I've seen where they people stick their checks into accounts Don't need envelopes anymore, and emails some of the receipts. Yeah, I mean, it's just things are changing on those transactions now. So.
You need to work on there if you want a card.
This is Mary Spearfish.
Yes, Mary.
I was just wondering, those statements, now that they're going to get, are those going to be sent email, or did you say they're going right to their mailing address?
I believe the credit card, the bank card place sends them directly to whoever has the card holder.
Their mailing address. Okay. Probably, yeah.
Yep. It's not
okay.
The payroll statement, the e-stub that we send when all of us get paid, they'll get that if they have an email address, but if they don't, then they would just get the whichever, the statement from the card holder.
Yeah.
Because we won't have access to that information where they're making their purchases and things like that.
Yeah.
That's still private information. Okay. So it'd be like your own credit card statement of if you have a credit card, what you purchase and whatnot.
I think also it's important to let the kids know, remind them, they may get those email statements from Bureau personnel like 3 days before the money's in the account.
Right.
So, they may not want to go on a spending spree in their checking account or whatever, assuming that because they got this email that the money's in the account. And it won't be until the 1st or 16th, for sure.
Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah, that might be good, something really good for them to know. So, anything else?
I think it might say that on the email too, that for deposit on such and such date.
Yeah.
It does, I think, if you read it,
But,
yeah. But we just want to remind them because they might not read that whole thing. The next two things we'll kind of look at is the payroll calendar. Did you have them?
Yes, I do. And let me bring up one of them. And then
you don't need to look at both of them. I just wanted to make sure that they...
I'll bring up the current one we're in, and then I'll bring up the one that Kathy did.
Okay. So this is what BOP uses for processing the payroll. Nikki, I know that you are much more familiar with your dates and how things can get corrected if we have some issues, so I want to make sure that you talk on this.
Okay. Just the yellows on there are the pay period ending dates, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with because of your own timekeeping. The green dates are pay days. The red are holidays. And the gray areas are ones where they're adjusted due to a holiday or vice versa. With us in BOP, these are the dates that you have for like a pay period ending, but there's only certain times to where you're allowed to load a new person into the system. Say I get some project skills paperwork, I only have, like today is the last day that I'm able to enter people into the system for starting 12/9. So even though we have a few more days until the pay period is over with, they have to be loaded into the system like 4 or 5 days prior to the end of the pay period. So that's why sometimes if you submit paperwork and they're not in the system, there's a window there where 4 or 5 days where I can't put them in until after the payroll cycle ends, which is, say, the 23rd is the end of our next pay period. We aren't allowed to enter anybody from today until probably the 29th. So there's over a week of where we can't enter anybody, just because payroll cycle is starting and things like that, or payroll is active, so you can't make any changes because it'll affect the payroll system. So,
so if they had hours right away, they just may have to be moved into the next pay period situation.
Yeah, or we'd like to pay them. The idea is for the hours that you worked, put it on the day that you worked. We do have things called correction runs, which is after payroll. Say we just got paid on the 16th for pay period ending 12/8. Tomorrow we have a correction run where something happened with someone's paycheck. Something was wrong, got paid too much, too less, or didn't get paid. then we're able to do a correction run, which is to correct the previous payroll for
Okay.
a certain individual. And so we have those, and we can, if someone didn't get paid, we can put them on the correction run. It costs the state more money to do that, so we try and do it during the regular payroll cycle.
Okay.
But there is an option to do that. And for people turning in their hours, like I said, it's advisable to put the hours down on the day that you worked, just because of overtime and work week regulation and things. But I don't know, I guess I can't remember what I was going to say, but so it's just important to keep those hours during that week, because when you go back for 3 weeks, you could have more hours than you're supposed to have.
Yeah. One of the things we run into is because the students have the immediate access to the timekeeping system, that their pay period is like a week off, and allow that time to receive those time cards,
Right.
and to enter them in, and that's where Kathy has put this together, and help me, I just here. And she asked me the day about, can we just do this for the full calendar or school year? Because I said, well, yeah, because we only had the information in the past just for on a state year or something like that. But apparently, we're able to do it for the full calendar year. So these will kind of go into the folders, or you should put them in those folders. So the pay period that starts on October 1st and ends on October 16th, the time card needs to get to the counselor no later than the 20th, and they will receive their check on November 1st. So it lays that all out for the entire school year for the student, or pretty well onto there. And we should make sure that the employment skills program and the project skills students have a copy of this in the folder and stuff. So, because they want to know, when I work these time periods, will I get the money? That seems to be, for many of them, stuff like that. So, and I was also talking to Kathy too about, because I was there one day and I seen some of the time cards come in, and they're and real personnel doesn't see the time cards. Our staff do. And we need to make sure that we're not doing the work for the student. This part of the time cards is a learning experience for the student, getting that completed, getting the employer to sign it, and they sign it, and stuff like that. And the totaling of the hours, I think in those time cards on the back, we put those increments and the tenths of the hour and all that information up there, and sample in the manual. So, if there's problems with them being completed correctly, it's important that the student or the school be notified onto that. And I don't want to put the support staff always in that difficult situation as being heavy. And I think the counselors may have to be the ones to call the school or the student and let them know onto there. So it's important onto there. So, okay, let me knock this down.
Hey Bernie, this is Peg.
Yeah, Peg.
Could you have Kathy or Becky print some of those payroll calendars for me? Because we don't have a color printer down here, so we'd have the color, the yellow and the green.
Yeah.
Could I ask Kathy to do that for me?
She doesn't have a color printer either.
Okay.
So we could print them too. We'd be happy to do that. How many do you want?
How many, Peg?
What do you think? Guys, 25, 30?
Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Good start.
Then I can get some packets going that way.
Probably the 2012. But I
You want
think
the 11
Yeah.
or just the 12? Just the 12, probably. Huh?
Just the 12, yeah. Yeah, just the 12.
Okay.
And this is the calendar
Thanks.
that you can get if you go to your own SEA, your employee self-service. This is available in there on one of those side hours, the 2012 payroll calendar. So if you need access to it, it'll be there, but you don't have the color printer to print it. At least it's there for viewing.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good, we'll get that put together. Okay, any other questions on the payroll calendar? Comments?
Comments on Bureau personnel stuff, because I had some other things to go through yet.
We have the employee manager self-service portal information.
Okay.
Now, we included this because we know that it's available for everybody who gets paid from the state of South Dakota.
Mhm.
So all of the Project Skills students have one of these too. It tells you how to get into that. But the question that we have for you is that you may not want to have, and there isn't everything available to the Project Skills students from here.
Okay.
You know, so we can take this document and make it available so that they can access some of the stuff that they need with regards to their pay, but take out some of the things that might be confusing or might not be needed or that it's not part of the program. So we could adjust this document for the Project Skills purposes, and that way there's an avenue for that student to get to information they need.
Okay.
Okay?
I guess I'd be open to what people think on it. I don't remember sending that form out unless I overlooked it. Yeah. Self-service. It might have been on your deal and I was matching up. I may not have sent. I know didn't think I sent it out to staff.
Okay.
I can
Okay.
onto there.
And it might take a little while before you get to this, but this is, if your student comes in, they haven't provided you with an email address, or the email address they provided you is no longer functioning, and they want a copy of their last payroll information, this is where you can find it. So this would be a way to service their needs right there and then. And that way, you know, you can teach them that they can go on here too. Okay?
So are you wanting us to get back to you onto that part of it? Okay, why don't I tell you, we have a supervisors meeting coming up, and if the staff would discuss this with the supervisors, that we'll bring it up during the supervisors meeting and decide where to go on that then.
Yep.
Okay, and I'll send that form out after our video conference here.
Okay, and you can just keep that one. Right?
Okay.
So you can see. And then the other question that we have is that, you know, and this isn't, I'm not asking for a decision today. I'm just trying to give you the things that we're asking so you can have some discussion. Is that where you want to go with having email addresses for the people in the program? You know, we've proposed if your person doesn't have an email address, that we send it to the counselor. We also know that you have the portal that you can go to. So there's some things to think about of how you can administer that portion of where they can see what they would physically get in their payroll.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, we'll talk about that supervisor meeting. I'm kind of leaning towards the counselor email at this point in time, but let's discuss that.
What about like the special ed teachers' email? Since they're the ones that are going to have direct access with the students.
But you're kind of sharing information out. Yeah, yeah.
This is Carmen in Huron. To do that portal thing, don't we have to have their employee number to access that? And how do we get that?
It's on there.
It's on their payroll, as well as we can provide that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know what you have. I know you have a system that you put information in, you know, so that you can track what you're doing through Project Skills. And then we've had a chance where we've kind of matched up, well, what do you have in BOP?
We matched up by social security numbers.
Yep, and making sure that all of our information is accurate, you know,
yeah,
through both places.
Does this go by social security number to enter in, or does this go by this employee manager self-service, or does this go by their employee ID?
Goes by, the username is your employee ID, and then your user password is last four of your social.
Okay.
And
is there
month and date of birth.
employee ID on the electronic version of their paycheck?
It would be, and then also another place you can access that is in TKS. You'll be able to, whoever you do your remote timekeeping for, you'd be able, under their name, you would see their employee number.
You just need to
TKS.
the supervisors. It's on the timekeeping system that it shows up in Jerry's. And matter of fact, I think Carol does all the the project skills, entering them in for the Brookings district, and she would see them there too. Okay?
Yep, so I can just contact one of them.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So those are some questions that we have from here.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything that we should answer still from BOP or?
Something else to make note of, we're able to run queries on essentially any of the data that we have on anybody. And so if you supervisors request, I can give, anything you want essentially. Their address, their employee number, their start date,
Email address.
Email address if we have it. Any of that kind of information that is on any of these forms is in a database. And so we could run a query on those specific things, and you could see who has email addresses for your staff or whatever you might need. So just let me know and I can get that for you.
This is Carmen from Huron again. I had one other question on the restrictions on public employment. You want that done on anybody who is 18 or over, even
Yes.
if they're a student
Yes.
in high school? Okay.
Well, if they're getting a job, we need this form. Okay?
Okay, so if they're doing project skills and they're over 18 or 18 or over, you still want one of these?
Yes. They're getting a job
Okay.
with our agency.
And then those who are doing the work experience and are over 18, you want one too?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a lot of students that are over 18 or 18 and older?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, if you need a report run, you can let us know, and we can actually put those dates in there and go from there. Okay?
Yep.
But if we're just doing like job placement with somebody, the state's not employing them. Do we still need to do that form?
On project skills or
But
employment skills program, we
Those are
would.
the only 2 times that we have to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
But the employer's going to need to get it filled out, whether they do get a job at Burger King or wherever it may be. And
Yep.
So, okay.
And it's kind of driven that if we're giving them a paycheck, then we have to have that. Okay?
Okay.
I have a student that is going to be doing project skills this spring, and he's 18.
So we want to make sure that that form is completed and sent back.
Okay.
And that's kind of some stuff to think about, like with this packet that you have, do you want that electronic so you can say this is for employment skills, this is for project skills, and that way they kind of know what to pick from if you do it electronically, or do you want to do it paper-based, and if you do it electronically, we're going to provide you with updated forms, as we go on.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that?
We have most of those forms we've been putting out in the VR Faces under forms directory and stuff
Okay.
like that. And I'll make sure these are out there if they're not already.
Okay.
Probably the best way to do it. I know that Kathy will send out the packet. We have this kind of a packet.
Okay.
You must have a really, really old one.
I do.
And this is what she'll send out with the printed material inside. And then, she'll, offices out there just need to insert them together when they're distributing them and stuff. So,
Okay. So if you talked about maybe kicking around the idea of having an email address for those individuals without emails be either somebody at the school, is there any documents that they sign or in the agreement that they do where it talks about confidentiality?
we could do a release of information form at that point in time that it's shared with a special ed teacher.
Okay.
Would cover us onto that.
So that the student can say, yep, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if he wants it to the special ed teacher, we can just do a release and keep that in our file.
And if they're under 18, we could do it with the parent and not even...
The parent.
They wouldn't even need to sign
Yeah.
a release, but if they're over 18, they'd have to sign a release to
Yeah.
the parent's email account.
Just use a general release for that, then, right?
What's that?
Or a general PR release we can use for
Yeah,
that.
general release would probably be fine on it.
okay.
I had a few other things too I'm going to catch, and then if you guys have any questions, we can still catch up with them. I kind of ties in that project skills tend to be a career exposure type program. We a few years ago we did put in a requirement of limiting the hours to 20. It was our intent onto there, and it helped us in case there were some weeks got missed or catching up to of overtime issues onto there. And if the employer does want the student to work more, maybe the employer could pick up put the person on the payroll. And we have seen some of that, a lot of that at times where when their 250 hours is done, that the employer does pick them up, and so it does work pretty good onto there. I know there's times that the time card may be late or whatever. I guess we just call you, but we could probably we'll put them on a payroll system best that we can, so they don't exceed 40 hours and stuff. So once in a while we may get a call from, it's usually the parent. They want to know what they have when's my child getting paid or the check and stuff like that. I prefer them to go through the counselor and up through me versus just randomly calling the bureau personnel onto there and stuff. So
because you have an arrangement with the parent, if need be, to share that information.
Well, yeah, we check see for releases in file and stuff like that,
and we wouldn't have that.
Yeah, and sometimes they're wanting a record of those payments, and I can run that from the VR faces just as well onto there. So, also that we use the VR faces to track part of this. That I do remind people that you can go to the counselor manual under authorizations, and then for specific instructions on different types of services, you'll find the authorization instructions for project skills as well as employment skills program. And for example, it'll say under project skills, the vendor is the agency of the school listed who we have a contract with. So that one sheet I sent out, Custer School District is under Black Hill Special Service Cooperative. So you list Black Hill Special Service Cooperative as the vendor. You do enter in two service records. One is employment experience wages, and the other one is benefits. So the wages is $7.25 an hour, and the benefits are 85 cents an hour, and that covers basically the FICA, the workers' comp into there that is also being paid. That we do want those costs reflected onto a person's case. And then, of course, the fund source is the current year, whether it's DRS or SBBI. So you may select 2000, right now it's 2012, project skills. And so 2012 would have started on October 1st and ends on September 30th. And, we're going to have students that they may overlap a little bit, like they may start on September 30th, for example. I don't want where we're telling the students that because we're September 1st, you got to wait till October 1st to start the job. It should be a seamless process for the students out there. But what it may result in is that the support staff, when they enter it into the VR faces, they're going to have to maybe estimate that 30 hours will fall under the older federal fiscal year, and the remaining will fall under the newer fiscal year. And when it's all paid out, if it's off a little bit, that's not a big issue from what you originally authorized. But we do want to clean those records out on federal fiscal years and stuff. So it should be seamless for the students out there. We just need to estimate how much is going to fall in each federal year. When you do the employment skills program, you can pick the service that has the wages and benefits combined into there. Because the reason we separated it out for project skills is because we do run reports to the school districts, and it'll show that they've had how many hours, how much has been paid, and how many hours are remaining yet onto there. So it's based upon the reports that we send out. But for the employment skills program, we don't have cooperative agreements with agencies out there that we're sending those kind of reports, and so we're paying for all the wages and the benefits, everything onto there. So I think it's also just a reminder, when you are doing project skills, make sure that you select the funding source of project skills, because that's what determines and tracks it on the system for reports. If you select 110 funds, not only is it going to mess up the report, they're going to get two checks. They're going to get one from the payroll system, and they're going to get one from the VR faces. So selecting the funding sources is critical onto there. So before I go on to reviewing the project skills data page with the workers' comp information, I do want to take some time to see if there's any questions on what Priscilla and Nicole were addressing here on the payroll portion of it. Carmen, we have you on the screen, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm back to this whole restrictions on public employment.
Yes.
So if they're not required to register for whatever reason, like they came into the country after they were 26, do you need additional information on top of that, or just this form?
Just this form.
Okay, you don't need their
Okay.
I-94 green card
No.
or whatever?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
all right.
You may need some of that for the I-9 purposes.
Yep.
Right, yep.
But not for this document's purposes. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good question. Any other questions out there?
Bernie, this is Jennifer in Yankton.
Yes,
I must be making this form a lot harder than it is, but anybody over 18 has to complete this and they sign it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, one of the questions I have is, because we're working with some people with some cognitive issues, what happens if they don't know if they have to register?
Let me ask you this: do they have a legal guardian?
Yep.
Some of them do.
So
Some
the
don't.
legal
Some do,
guardian
some
can be
don't.
signed that.
Well, and you're not going to ask them to come in and sign other documents without somebody with
Yeah.
them, because they might not understand those other documents, right?
Right.
Right.
Part of the package.
So this would be presented at the same time as the I-9 and the direct deposit document, the ones that they would want to complete.
They're going to be required to complete this if they go work for McDonald's.
So really,
Why would you even? So do we have to go back through for the students that have turned 18 and are on project skills to do this with the updated paperwork?
Yes, we
A
do.
new contract?
Yeah, we
Okay.
do need it on file. We're not,
Okay.
but we're not saying, oh my gosh, you have to do this like right now, we're in a panic. We're hoping that you can come up with a plan of how you will be doing this, and then kind of let us know in HR
Yeah.
what you're going to be doing and what you want from us, so you can get this completed.
I would say take some of these with you when you go to IEPs and you're sitting there and realize, oh, you turned 18. Here, sign. Get that signed. Because they may have been in the payroll last year.
Yep.
Also, if they don't know if they're signed or not, on that website that's on this form, there's a place, I was monkeying with it, there is a place where you can put in some information and find out if they are registered or not. So if they don't happen to know, there's a place where you can check as well.
Yeah. But we would need the paper signed and sent in to us, even if they were registered on that site.
Yep.
Is it males only that need to fill out this form over 18, or?
Females too, because on the top line it says
Yeah, I
female
see
not
that.
required to register.
So
But they're not required to register for
no,
military
but they
service.
say they're female, and that's it. They say they're female and they sign it. Right?
Yep.
So every person over 18 does this form.
Yep. If you're 18 and over, in other words, if you're eligible to be registered for the draft, you're age 18 or older. And this has nothing to do with that, but it just is a document that's required by the federal government for anybody who is employable within the United States to complete this
And if-
have that on file at the employer's workspace.
And to my understanding, if they're over 18 and they're filling out the paperwork for the FAFSA,
Yep.
they're going to have.
They ask for this too.
Yeah.
So if they mark that bottom option, then we tell them to go get registered?
Yes, then they could use this to go get registered. Because they have a window of time to do that.
What if they don't?
They're not going to get FAFSA, probably.
Probably not. If they want
Does
to
that,
go-
I mean, we can tell them, okay, it says here you need to register, so you need to go and register, but we're not gonna take them down there and make them, or help
No,
them
it's their
register.
responsibility on
Yes.
there.
But yeah, we're not gonna help
No.
them register. Okay.
No. This is for the documentations with regards to employment. So in other words, we're not, we can't hold their hand and put them in that position of saying you need to go do this. We just have the documentation that you stated that you were, during your employment with us.
Well, I was just, because like with voter registration, we can help them right then register to vote.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we don't help them right then register for this.
Yeah.
For the selective service, okay.
Okay. Other questions?
Yankton still has another question too, if it's okay. When it comes to completing the I-9, we sign the verification at the bottom. What if we have teachers that see that do a lot of the documentation or see the documentation like the Social Security card and such? I often have them send me a copy of and they help us fill out all those forms. Can the teacher sign it?
Have they seen the documents, the original documents?
They're signing it that they've seen the original.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
That's what
it is.
So-
And my understanding is they've seen the original. That's what it's signing. The teacher can sign it.
Yep. And then for your
so they
purposes.
sign-
Sorry, what?
So they sign under the certification area, not the preparer?
Yes.
And what if it comes in and it's not signed? Is it okay for the counselor to sign it, or we send it back to that teacher and say, you looked at the forms, you signed this?
If it's right in Yankton,
Yeah.
right where you're at, the student can come into your office where you can see the actual originals that it's signed. Otherwise, it may be mailed back. I mean, that's the intent of it. You're seeing the original, you're not seeing a copy.
Do you see a lot of that where it comes in and it's unsigned and you have to do it, or?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Is there any way that you can provide a little bit of coaching so that they understand their responsibility when it comes to this document? It's so they can be employed in the United States legally, and would they be receptive to that coaching from you guys?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. And that may help with cutting down that need to, go through extra work to get this document signed.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
Carol has a question here in Brookings.
Bernie, I just want to go back to that restrictions on public employment paper one more time. What if the student won't register? Do we still allow them to participate in project skills?
Oh, okay, so you're asking a question after the fact. So they've come in, you are knowledgeable about the fact that they are male, they're 18 or older, they haven't done anything with registering yet, so you want to make sure they're employable, so now you're asking a good question.
You know what, I'm going to need to, that is a good question, Carol. I think there's a time period they do have to register, but what if we have a case that the person's already 30 or whatever, and they've absolutely refused to register. I need to check on, as far as employer, can you hire someone who's legitimate or just blatantly not registering? I know there's programs they can't get access to, like maybe Pell Grant and stuff. And if that denies them for Pell Grant, we wouldn't be picking up the difference of the funding onto it. So let me double check on that, Carol, as far as our role responsibility as being an employer, because it's going to be the same as what happens with McDonald's or Burger King hires them or whoever. That can they hire them?
Isn't it a misdemeanor if they don't register?
It's something. I'd have to go out on this website and check.
Yeah, let me check on that, Carol. I'll send an email out to folks on that. That's a good question.
Do you have somebody in that situation right now?
No.
Okay.
Just thinking about the future.
Well, and I was thinking about how quickly we have to respond to this too, so that's why I asked. Okay?
I want them working hours and hours, if we can't pay them or,
Because the thing is, if there is a requirement the employer can't hire them because they're refusing to get registered, what's our role? Because they're not going to get a job then.
Right, and then what do you say and how do you handle that? So
if they can't provide the I-9 documentation, then we probably shouldn't get too far into it either. So, okay.
Okay.
This is Carmen from Hearing again. Oops, sorry.
Yep.
I have a question on the I-9. Under the certification where it says that they began employment on month, date, and year, in the past I thought that BOP wanted us to leave that blank. Is that correct?
It is possible in the past they've asked for that.
To be left blank.
Where's that at on here?
You go down to about 2/3 of the way down. It says certification.
Yeah.
I'm not
But
really
it
sure
says that
why
they-
you would leave it blank, because it's just, I mean, it's black and white information. Either they started work on that date or they didn't. The person who actually saw the documents so that they can be legally authorized to work in the United States knows the date that they're going to start working and sees the documents.
But for project skills, employment skills program, you want us to put the date that they'll probably.
You may find that they're hired and everything, but they're not going to start till there's a conversation with your counselor, maybe the teacher and stuff. But there's not a
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, yeah.
You put the date they started work, whatever date that is.
I'm thinking that there may be a lot of situations that we're in an IEP meeting and we get the paperwork signed by the student while he's there, but they've got to develop the job and find it, which may take months, if at all.
I see what you're
Right.
talking about. So what that means is that the documents, I mean, he hasn't received a paycheck, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So what, the reason why BOP would tell you that is, first of all, there isn't a paycheck being received, and second of all, this information needs to be received within 3 days after a person starts employment, and that's probably why that date is for when the person actually started work. So they're not started work, because you need to have the exterior employer in order to get paid by BOP, right? And if you're going to
yeah.
work on that, and you got to
That's got to be developed.
Make
and
that happen.
That may take months sometimes.
Right.
And we've done this paperwork right away while we're in a
Okay.
meeting with the student and get it all done. And we don't know when that date, that employer will be and the date it may be. And I think they were instructed to leave that blank in the past because of that potential.
Yep, and that makes sense, and that would be one of the best reasons for that.
Okay.
You know, because if they're starting to work at McDonald's on Tuesday, that's the date that goes in here.
So if you know the date they're working, plug
Then
it
you
in.
put it in there. If-
Otherwise,
Because you don't know the first day that they start working, because they're not working for the state of South Dakota. We're just paying them.
Yeah.
So we can send this information in as soon as we get it completed then, even if we don't know an exact start date?
That would be a question for Nikki. She's got the desk and the files, and what do you want to do?
Typically, when I get them, I just load them right away as soon as I'm able, so I can get them in, and because I don't know when they start.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it was trained.
Yeah, if you wait too long, they're going to miss that payroll option because I hear Nikki say that she needs at least that week plus opportunity time window in there that needs to get them in the payroll system. So if you wait till the actual job starts, it may be too late onto there. So in most situations, I would say send it in early.
But if you get 3 days past the first date of employment to turn in the I-9 document. So if you send everything else in, all the other stuff is in except for this one, where you can put that date in there, then at least we know kind of when they're going to be receiving their first paycheck and stuff like that. Otherwise, this first date right here, we'd have to make sure that we put that in, because if we're scanning them in.
Maybe if
Or
we
you
put a
could
little
also-
sticky note on there.
Yep, it could be something.
Or you could
So-
also do it to where you send the paperwork in to me, you put a note on there saying, I'll email you when I know this person's start date.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can simply just fill it in when
Yeah.
after I get
Yeah,
the
I think if you leave it blank, make sure you put a note on there that it is blank.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Other,
One other thing I have, I guess, it is helpful for me too when I do get paperwork, if something isn't turned in, that you put a post-it on there. Because I don't call saying, I don't have this, so that I know that it's coming. Because I know a lot of people don't get the direct deposit information right away, and they'll put a post-it on there saying direct deposit is coming.
Mhm.
So that I don't call and harass you saying I need it. Then I know it's coming, so it's helpful.
other questions?
This is Joe again in Yankton. So back to the I-9 there, who do we put down for the business then? Is it State of South Dakota? Is it Rehabilitation Services? Is it the business that they're working at?
It would be the school, right? If the
Or-
teacher is doing it, then it's the school.
Yep. So you're talking about under certification and who sees this document?
Yes.
Correct.
They would fill that out. Like if you're working with your school, they would actually put who they are to see that document.
So if it's a teacher, special ed teacher, she'd be putting Yankton School District, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
If it's you're the one that's witnessing those documents, you would put Joey Hurrick,
Right.
Division of Rehab Services on there.
Yep.
blah, blah, blah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, Chamberlain here, Bernie.
He's
I
awake.
had a, yeah, I had a kid on Project Skills a little while ago, and I sent in a deposit slip from his bank account, and it didn't work, and I had to send in a check. I had the parent come up with a check and fax that in. What's the difference there? Can't figure that one out. The deposit slip, for the direct payroll.
Oh, so you're talking about a payroll card as opposed to direct deposit?
Direct deposit's what I had for the student.
Well, because we always need that check or something to go with it, no matter what. 'Cause even if the routing number and the account number is filled out on the form, we still need the proof that that is what it is.
Yeah, but he used the deposit slip, he said. Would that
If
help?
it's a commercial or deposit slip that would match the checking account.
Deposit slips, a lot of times the routing number isn't accurate as to what a check is. If you look at your deposit slip versus your actual check, the numbers are different on the bottom.
Oh, they are.
So you can't use a deposit slip in most cases for that purpose because those numbers are different.
You're right. They are different.
Wow.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either.
Learned something new.
Well, and you probably have students that don't have any checks when they show up at your place. They use the last one to buy something, They can go to their bank, and the bank is more than happy to provide that information on something that has their letterhead actually on it, where they write it all in and sign it. So, yes, a check is great, but we want to make sure that we are aware that sometimes that's not always right there for them. So the bank will provide things like that.
So a copy, like say if they just opened up the account and haven't gotten their check
Yep.
yet, a copy of that stating that what the router number is and the account number from the bank is good enough.
Yep. And you just go into the bank and ask for that, because they're happy to put that into an account that you've set up with them. So they have something that they do for that. So
A lot of times for new accounts, they'll just give you a card
Yep.
with the bank name, and they'll write out the account number and routing number and such for you to have, so you know what your account numbers are, and that'll work fine.
This
Thank
is
you. That's
Carol
the reason-
Brookings.
Go ahead, Carol.
Okay, I have another question about the deposit slip. We're talking about a deposit slip not always working for a checking account.
yes.
Do they usually work for the savings accounts though, or no?
The main portion for the savings account is that a lot of times we can look up the bank name, and the bank name will be on that deposit slip. So we can more than likely call the bank and get the routing number. As long as the actual account number is accurate for their account, then it should be fine. And if it doesn't get pre-noted, meaning that it fails the bank approval process, then I would need something else possibly. And I get email notification if something does fail once I enter a direct deposit form.
That's probably why all my deposits are not getting to my checking account, because that number's wrong on the bottom. Other questions?
Does that help, I hope?
Does that help?
Yes, that helps. Thank you. And I guess I could call the bank too if I had a question. Would it be helpful
But can you call the bank on behalf of your student, the Project Skills people? I don't know.
Well, if it's a big bank, would they just give me their routing number? I mean, if that's all I wanted,
No.
or no?
No, it's
Okay.
confidential information. So, I mean, I think about that with these young people and your experience work people. That would be part of the learning curve for them. You need this information if you're going to have a checking account, and this is what you need, because you know what? We're not going to be the first employer to ask for that.
Yeah. And I would suspect the bigger employers, the hospitals and all that stuff, are wanting electronic payments to happen too.
Right.
So,
But if they can't do that, I mean, are you working with the guardian or somebody that assists them to get this information?
Yes, and we've had at First National or First Bank and Trust anyway, twice I think now we've had someone go and get something on their letterhead stating their routing number and account number. So that has worked for really well, at least for that bank. I'm just thinking about the future and what might come up.
But if they kept a copy of that in their folder with their resume and stuff like that, they'll probably need it again.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. Other questions? You know, if these kids don't have a checking account, I mean, I can give them my account number if that would help me.
Okay, no.
So maybe you should get Bernie's checking account number and just write it down.
Keep it, yeah, that way, yeah.
We could probably fill out that direct deposit with a sample with the number already in it and stuff. So, okay.
We'll get you connected with Bill.
Other questions? I do want to hit some stuff on some workers' comp information and project skills payroll stuff. Okay. Well, you're welcome to stick around to this part, or
Nikki and I can go figure out what we gotta do next to
Okay.
your stuff. And, well, let us know. Ask additional questions in email to either one of us. That would be fine too if you think of something later on, okay? Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Priscilla and Nicole. I do want to hit some stuff on the project skills payroll page, or the project skills information data page. And I'm going to bring one up here, and I kind of have it where the name and stuff's not showing, just because this stuff will be out public later on. And this is the blank form onto there. And most of the information is copied right off that work agreement that the employee at the job site signs and stuff like that. The school signs, that's got those different quadrants. And thing to remember, this is done for project skills and employment skills program, both. So we probably could change the heading to project skills / ESP, but because most of it is used to help identify for the workers' comp information. So most of this information is taken right off of that work agreement. Now, if the school name is not on there because we've just issued a new contract, then let Rhonda or myself know onto there. It should be the ones that are listed on that handout I did. So like, you wouldn't list Custer School District, you would list Black Hill Special Service Cooperative as is who we have the contract with. The start date and end date, you can follow that through the number of weeks. The main thing that we really need, and it plugs a 0 in, is employment group number. And it's got a 0 in there. And that is where it's from, called a Scopes Manual. I think every office or district has a person designated as entering in the workers' comp code. And they would look through this cumbersome manual to find this code onto there. Before I get into that, I just want to show the rest of this on the bottom of the screen. We no longer get into the termination date and termination reason. We used to track that. And we also used to do a survey that was a turnaround completed, and we'd mail out, and we discontinued that some time back too onto there. So I just want to, below the group, well, we do the number of exemptions from the W-4 is on there, but the rest of the stuff we don't complete at this point in time onto there. So I just wanted to clarify that with people onto there. The Scopes Manual is where we pull out the industry codes for the workers' comp. And it is a little bit more confusing because this information is not driven by what we've typically done with Dictionary of Occupational Titles. It doesn't follow so much the business or the type of jobs. It follows more the nature of the business. It's going to follow hospitals. And you look up hospitals, and there it may be janitorial and food service may be the same coding into for that. And so it's important to look up the type of business. And a couple things I want to point out onto there is sometimes an example of when you look up in schools, professional and clerical are grouped together on 8068. where other janitorial jobs are 9101. And so look at the very beginning and look for the type of business like schools and see if you can narrow it down more. And then you need to go deeper into the manual and you need to find the code and look for the example into there. And you need to really watch as far as, don't get way in the back because those are state specifics. And I don't think South Dakota has any unique or special codes into there, but other states would probably have to look back at those numbers and try to find them. So watch for the state-specific ones. Our auditor is pretty good because what happens is every year we process a check for the workers' comp. And we estimate how many people are going to be doing dishwashing at restaurants or dishwashing here or working at schools or working at hotels and how many hours. And then we cut a check right up front, usually about October 1st, on how much we're going to be covering for the workers' comp, because every industry and occupations, there's a higher risk of the payment that happens into there. So someone working on an office job may have a lower risk of a workers' comp injury versus someone who's working as an aide in a nursing home that's more likely of a back injury situation. So it is going to be based upon that type of industry and stuff. And then we get to the end of the year, then we match up where did we end up as far as our estimates in these various occupations and these business type settings. And then we're either going to get a refund back because we overpaid, or we end up getting paying more because of the difference in occupation, or lately we've been having more hours than we typically have had in the previous year. The person who does come out and sits down and go through this with me is pretty cooperative on helping us adjust those codes and make those corrections. And that's usually the time of year in October where I'm calling Keith Rouse and I say that this person worked at, and some of these businesses out there, it's hard to tell what it is. It's Fair Farms, or I think Watertown is Country Fair Farms or whatever, foods, or it's hard to understand. Is that a welding? Is it a grocery store or whatever? So I'm getting you guys on the phone and saying just what is this business? So on that project skills data page, it's important to list that employer name. To list the name of the business. That's important because most of the times we can identify it as 7-Eleven. We know that's a convenient gas station kind of a deal. And it doesn't matter if they're doing the stocking shelves or they're the clerk behind the counter, because it's the same, going by the type of business onto there. So it's important to make sure we get the business name and that group code, because what happens is I will match it up with all the paychecks that have been issued during that time period. And of course, then there's some that don't match up. And it's either that we've got different Social Security numbers between Bureau personnel and Bureau faces, so one of them's going to get corrected, or it's example of that the data was not entered in for the employment skills or the project skills data page, or it was just plugged in as 0 and we did put the workers' comp code injury code into there. So I just want you guys to realize the importance of that project skills data page, which is also used for employment skills. And we've been pretty good onto there that it, of the 450 kids that are paychecked for people that issue, probably down to 10 of them that happens. But, October is never the easiest month for me, and that's when he's calling, he's wanting this done and stuff. So he has timelines to get it done also. So one thing I also want to mention, and probably didn't, while they're here, is there's a time periods we do need to start taking people off the payroll system. I'm not sure if we're getting charged while the people on the system are not, but I would say when we start the new school year that if these kids have graduated and they're done, they're not going to be on the payroll, communicate that up to probably Nicole is the one that handles that, and then they take them off the system, which also takes them off the timekeeping system for the supervisor to sign, because I would say when the supervisors are signing those timekeeping systems for, there were 2 weeks that there's 100 kids showing up onto there. So if they're not getting paychecks anymore, we can get them cleaned off of there. So we have 20 minutes till. Oh, and I did want to show you guys just real quick on the DRS webpage that where you will be finding these recorded training sessions. And so when you go to Division of Rehab Services webpage, you go recorded training sessions. This is where we're starting to list these, and we will be listing even some of the past ones. We're waiting to get the videos converted, and we're relying on BIT after that. But this one in September, now we skipped October because we had a fall conference, but when you go to the budget nuts and bolts, this is where you can click and get the various handouts, the expense coding, your sample vouchers, and when you click on this little arrow, it's literally start playing the video conference session that we've had like here today. So eventually you'll see them on the other ones. We just got done working with the legal system. I think I want to retitle this, Steve, call it, this was a criminal records one. This is what we gave to Steve to post out there, and it says recording not yet available. So that's what's, and it'll have the handouts out there. So that's where we're putting those, and that way when people start 6 months, a year from now down the road, they can go back to those sessions and review them. And I know we got a few older ones that I had recorded that were also getting put out there too. So we have about 15 minutes left, folks. If there's questions that you may have.
Bernie, I've got a question. This is Mary in Mobridge. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. When on that website where you're going to be putting the recorded conferences like we're doing now, is that a closed site, or is that something that anybody in the whole world goes into so they can?
Right now, anyone in the whole world.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thanks.
And the reason is there's agency outside. We could move this down to the what they call the intranet, which is only in the state people have access to. But there's people that are outside of our agencies, such as the Transition Project, who are the ones that we may have trainings out there that we want them to go back and view it, or if we did something on Ticket to Work coming up that they can go back and view that. So that's why I always try to the very beginning to say this is going to be recorded and put on our website. And then after I do the roll call of site is when I do turn on the recorder. So if you want to say things nasty, it's usually right away in the very beginning because it's not getting recorded. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bernie, we have a question here in Rapid City.
Yep.
Can the counselors use the authorization that says wages and benefits for project skills just like they use for employment skills?
No,
or does it need to be the...
For the project skills, it needs to be separated out into two services because we run reports and send to the schools that on that report it looks specifically at the wages.
Okay.
Keeping some face in trouble.
And that's recorded.
Good one. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
The form that we're supposed to get for the students that are already 10 and stuff, shouldn't we just do that in the intake? If they're not eligible to be employed by anybody else, if they haven't filled out for military draft?
You can if you know they're going to be in the payroll system eventually, but I know the I-9 that they need to verify they can complete those sections to even be applying for services with us.
Okay.
I need to follow up and check with on that form is what if they say they're not going to get registered or whatever, that, what is the consequences to them? Do we, it's just like with someone who gets Social Security and they refuse to report it to their employer. it doesn't mean we don't serve them. I mean,
No.
it's just they're going to run into legal problems.
Yeah.
And we may want to document that we told them.
Okay.
So, but I've got to check up on that other deal. So.
Hey, Bernie, it's Peg. On
Yeah,
the
Peg.
scopes codes, the ones that are marked with the states in parentheses, we're not supposed to use those, right?
Yeah, my understanding. Those are specific.
Yeah. And so if you can't find one that's anywhere near that doesn't have a state by it, what are you supposed to do?
Well, let me look here. What I'm looking more at the first section. Let me find one that some of these are saying NA for Oregon. So Oregon doesn't do that. And let me find a different one here of cigarette manufacturing. Now, it doesn't matter what you're doing in that factory, but it says Massachusetts referred to code 2177 for those, blah, blah, and so it'll make a note once in a while of for other states. So I think this first section, when it goes into thousands, 2000s, all that stuff, those are the areas we want to get into. But then you get into an area in the back, it says state special codes. And I don't think, there's one here for coal mining, which is specific to applies in West Virginia specific. These are applying to specific states onto there. So it's not the easiest manual in the world to look up. I've got to admit with that. Look in the very beginning of the numerical index, not that, of it is by alphabetical index. Start looking there by the type of business, and then when you find the code, then go, look for it into there. I tried to have the guy who did I tried to have the guy who did the project skills audit come and present, and I don't know if he was camera shy or whatever, or he didn't have a conflict or whatever, but it, wasn't able to. Okay. Other questions? You guys had a lot of good questions today. This probably shows that we probably need to keep coming back to these discussion topics and kind of keep redoing them at times, or have them available on the internet that we can go back and reference and stuff. Because I think sometimes things even change within with Bureau personnel, how they want things completed and stuff like that. So I think it's probably good just to do a refresher like this again. It's helpful. So again, if you have any questions on the payroll information, feel free to contact Priscilla or Nicole, and or if you get any questions on the program or whatever, feel free to give me a call onto there. So there's
Bernie,
no other.
Yankton
Yep.
has another question.
Sure.
Joe is wondering if
Joe
is wondering if there would ever be a project skills manual. I think it'd be a perfect futures thing myself, but he's already retired.
A couple things there. The insert we try to address for most people's needs on there, that would be that catch-all, what goes in the insert. I believe there was a brochure for employers that was done on project skills that's handed to employers that's more simplified, because you can't handle that big manual onto there. I think the only thing that is supplemental that the other manual doesn't have is more of the Bureau personnel type specific instructions onto there as a possibility. I know that we have on the booklet itself, it does have what forms are needed onto there. We may have to do some updating on, but so.
And project skills is in that transition tackle box too.
Yeah, but I think Jill, are you guys talking about instructions manual to be more on the Bureau personnel kind of stuff? Because that applies usually just to us. Am I correct on that, or you want something more global?
I don't know, just anytime you can have an instruction guide, something that we can refer to back. I mean, we'll have this video and stuff, which is nice. But it's just anything we can do to have that is always nice to have.
Because I I know the manual itself that all the students get, that talks about the student work exclusion income and all that, Social Security, and we try to address all those things that teachers and parents and students may need to know onto that. This is what we're dealing here today is a lot internally what we deal with. We may look at doing a video conference at some point in time with schools on their portion of project skills and doing job development and filling out those forms and stuff like that, maybe future training. So
I think it would be good for teachers that fill out the project skills, help students fill out project skills paperwork to go through some of those forms.
Yeah.
Like we did today.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I wish they would have been here.
Well, they can access this on the website here. And so,
I mean, we get have some teachers every year that have the same questions on filling those out. So
Yes.
maybe it'll help, maybe it won't.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I guess we're done.
I think just the screen froze. So any other questions you guys may have out there?